Let me start by saying, never purchase a house in a neighborhood with a homeowners association, HOA. It is a complete mess that should be regulated and illegal. If I had known about HOAs when I bought my first home, I would have never purchased one in an HOA. My wife and I bought our first home when we were 24 and 25 years old. We spent months looking at houses and neighborhoods, trying to find a forever home in a good school district for potential future kids, etc. We finally found a perfect house at a decent price. At first, everything was great. The neighborhood was super nice, and the neighbors seemed decent. But a few months after buying the house, we rented an RV to go on a trip and parked it in the driveway for the 3 days leading up to the trip. We needed time to pack it and for me to learn how half the things in it worked. Well, this is when we learned that HOAs are absolutely crazy. Our neighbor was on the board of our local HOA. Within an hour of the RV being parked, he came home and stormed over, demanding we remove it from his neighborhood. He threatened to have it towed and fine us for every hour it was there. I, being an average and normal person, told him kindly to fuck off and get out of my driveway. I also told him that if he returned, I'd call the cops because he was screaming like a madman inches from my face. About 3 hours later, a big rig tow truck showed up. Mr. Crazy Neighbor board member walked up like he was a god and handed me a plain envelope with a letter inside. It basically said, by order of the HOA, this RV is to be towed, and included a fine of $1,500 for violating their rules. While Mr. Crazy Neighbor might not listen to reason, the tow truck guy wasn't so fond of entering my driveway and towing a vehicle when I told him that if he came on the property, I'd call the cops. Once the tow truck driver decided he was done being involved in this mess, he left. Mr. Crazy Neighbor went even crazier and stormed off. I called my friend to get his dad's number because he's an attorney. I wanted to ask him about this insane letter and fine I had just received and get some legal advice. After speaking to his father, he told me to come down, write him a $500 check, and bring along all the papers I received when purchasing the home and the current letter I just received. The next day, he sent a very friendly letter to my neighbor and the HOA board. Basically, it told my neighbor to fuck himself in legal terms and to leave us and our property alone. Despite this, I continued to receive fines of $1,500 a day in plain envelopes, not postmarked and stuffed into my mailbox. I then turned these over to my friend's father. Each time, he sent another set of letters and contacted USPS to report the incidents. It turns out that putting mail into someone's mailbox without postage is a crime. Who knew? We decided to go on our week-long trip across the state and mildly forgot about it all. I was kind of upset that I had to spend $500 to have an attorney send letters, but that's what they do. Fast forward to our return from the trip. The RV was back in our driveway for 2 days so we could unload, clean, and then return it. Again, each day, more envelopes were stuffed into our mailbox. More visits to our attorney followed, more letters were sent, and more incidents were reported to USPS. Here's where the fun really begins. Mr. Cobb, Crazy Neighbor, finally gave me a summons to appear before the board. My attorney said this was crazy illegal because what they'd done was use what looked like an actual legal document improperly to summon me to the board. Another $500 to the attorney, and we waited for the date they set, which was a Tuesday at 10 a.m. They attempted to keep my attorney out of the room on some board privacy rule, but quickly shut up when he began going over their own rules that they were violating. Deep in the HOA book were some very nicely worded rules outlining what makes board members ineligible and how they cannot serve if they commit certain infractions. Well, guess what? Mr. Holland, Crazy Neighbor, had done? Committed several of them, all documented. The cherry on top was that if 51% of the HOA members voted to dissolve the HOA, it all went away. It just so happened that my wife worked part-time from home during this mess and had all the free time in the world to begin a disband the HOA campaign. Over the course of the next 2 months, she went around and really got to know our neighborhood well. It turned out that a lot of people disliked the HOA and the power-hungry seniors who acted like dictators who ran it. The HOA attempted to stall everything by holding no meetings, which was another HOA violation. They also began their own campaign, trying to change HOA rules to keep from being ousted. They even sent out a fairly racist flyer and letter to everyone, explaining the dangers of not having an HOA and all the bad people, blacks and Mexicans, that would move in, take over, sell drugs, etc. They claimed our houses would become much less valuable and tried every scare tactic they could. It turns out it's extremely fun to use someone's own rules against them. The neighborhood even started a fund that reimbursed us for what it cost to get the attorney started and the continued costs he had. A few weeks after their failed fear campaign and being forced to hold a meeting, a vote was called using their own rules. The HOA was no more. All remaining funds were to be dispersed back to the homeowners and members equally, though this never happened, as the HOA somehow used all their funds in the course of the last 2 months. About half the former board members sold their homes and moved, including Mr. Crazy Neighbor. I spent 3 hours trying to find old news articles about this because it was reported mostly due to racist letters by the HOA, but it was too long ago to find anything. The moral of the whole mess is this: don't buy a home in an HOA, and if you do, plan to hire an attorney.